Hey YouTube, what's going on? Greg Van from Medford MKT USA. Let me wet my whistle. I don't even know if anybody even goes on YouTube anymore. But I'm going to do a video to talk to you guys about 3 new knife models. I've got a couple of these you've seen little hints of before. A couple of these you've seen before, but this is a no kidding announcement that they're out. Maybe you want to see, maybe you don't. So I started making big knives because I thought it might be a little easier. Wrong. I started making big knives because I was coming from that kind of military, kind of go to war mentality. And what I found really quickly was there was a ton of people who wanted that, but it was kind of a niche. But I was buried. I got buried in work. Good day. And I built a company around all the work that popped up, and it was awesome, and I'm super grateful. But it's just not the only thing that I did, or want to do. I have a lot of knife styles and designs that I like. So, as a non-collector, as a knife user for my whole life, I kind of gravitated towards some other things. And as soon as you have, guten Tag, and as soon as you have a really nice kind of lineup of big stuff, I started working on some medium stuff. So, I did the TFF1 and the Fat Daddy and the Praetorian Tie, the Praetorian T, and then the Marauder, and then I went on to the Genesis and the Micro and the MIDI Marauder and the Slim MIDI, and my style started to evolve a little bit, and I wanted to kind of flex my design, I don't know-how or savvy or whatever. Then came the Swift, which is, not the Swift, I'm sorry, the Infraction, and then the newer stuff you've seen the last couple of years. I was like, okay, well, I've done a lot of frame locks. Let's try some other things. So I invented a new lock, which we should be launching this year. I made some button locks, so the Smooth Criminal, and then once you've made button locks, you can kind of make the jump into autos. So I've made some swing autos, really cool, like the Nosferatu and the Praetorian Swift. And now we're working on making some slim, smaller, and more sleek carry items. So I have found, and then I've got the USMC Fighter and the Proxima on the big size that are my more recent entrees into my pool of big knives. I like big knives. I like them for my hands because I've got good sized hands. And what I find is there are a decent amount of times where I don't want to have a big knife with me. So I end up going down to like City Hall for stuff occasionally. Well, you can't bring knives in there. Well, you can't bring knives like that in there. I end up going places where it's maybe not appropriate. Or I started wearing some thinner pants in the summer and a big knife kind of really hangs on them. There's a bunch of, and I know you guys all go through this because I've heard all of this feedback from users as well. So the first thing I wanted to do was make some pocket-friendly knives that were much lighter, that could drop in the back side, on the seam side back of your pocket. And the thing we did recently was the Praetorian Swift. The Praetorian Swift was an auto with a aluminum chassis and blade. And then I decided, hey, the auto, a lot of guys don't like autos, or they don't want autos, or they're not allowed to have autos where they're at in their country, their city, their state, or whatever. So we came up with our Swift frame lock. This is the Swift frame lock, okay? So it's gonna be hard for you to see this, but this side here, the presentation side of the knife, is hard aluminum, hard anodized aluminum, and it's got an integral back strap, and it's got a titanium frame lock side. So it's exactly the same dimension as a Praetorian Swift, except it's a frame lock. You guys can jump onto medfordknife.com, or you can go to our authorized dealers down on the bottom in where to buy. This happens to be number 1, but a really, really cool Very, very pocket friendly. Great little frame lock. It is on bearings. As I get to this size, I don't mind bearings because at that when you get to these smaller knives, they're not getting the same kind of side lateral loads and work done with them that big knives are. So that's the first thing. That was we have the Swift and Auto, and I want to make a frame lock version of the Swift. Only difference is that it's got a titanium frame lock side. Okay, next. We had so much success with our Slim MIDI, our mid-size Marauder that we slimmed down to 1/8 inch scales, that we took our Swift model and we made a slim version of it. So the Praetorian Genesis is the mid-size Praetorian. And the Swift models are all exactly a Genesis in length, and they've been squeezed this way dimensionally and re-engineered. And then I took this planform profile, exact same planform profile, and I went with 1/8 inch scales. So as you can see, let me see if I can show you guys this a little bit better without cutting the shit out of myself. It's a much thinner knife. Let me see if I can get out of the way. So for guys who like really thin and light, the Praetorian Slim is a great option. So we've got the Slim MIDI and the Praetorian Slim kind of going head to head. It's my Scottie Pippen and my Michael Jordan. The only thing different about this knife, it's the only one like it, and you can now get these, is this one's a flipper. Now this guy's on bearings as well, and it has an lock bar over travel limiter on it. It is an all titanium frame lock S35 VN drop point Tonto Praetorian Swift in profile, slim in dimensions. Whenever we say slim in our company, that's the 1/8 inch dimensions. And it's got a flipper on it. So it's a really nice complement. Sometimes you want something slimmer, smaller, thinner, out of the way, or you want it in a backup place or whatever. The third knife I'm going to show you today, and this is our biggest radical departure from anything we've ever done. This is an attempt to go after our Europeans who are really limited by size. It is a different price point than we're used to swimming in, and I think you guys are going to really like it. These you can find at medfordknife.com. Go to our authorized dealer page. Anything you see there are possibilities as well. This is our Gentleman Jack. So this is a slip joint pocket knife. It's got a full waterfall nail nick on it. Titanium sides, titanium pivot screw, 4/16 stainless steel hardened pivot, titanium threaded spacer, stainless steel rack, Torx. Oh, maybe those aren't. I think they're Torx. Yeah, they're Torx flush mounted screws. It's got an S35 VN back strap on it. Talk a little bit about the knife, okay? The badging on it. Now the badging on mine, this is number 1. It's a little tiny bit different. We're gonna do a clip next year. We're not doing one this year on this knife. So the badging on it, we did like this. So if you guys go to buy one of these knives, you will see it doesn't have any nomenclature on the front. It just has our logo, and the logo is going to be tangent to the plunge shoulder here, okay? Then on the top, it says, "Made in the United States of America," in the script of the U.S. Constitution, right here. And then on the back side, it actually is not going to be here. It's a little forward, and it says GJ1 S35 VN, which means Gentleman Jack number 1 version S35 VN stainless steel. So again, you know, we've put some homages here. We've given it kind of a faux boaster look, but we've gone with all space age product material, you know, modern stuff. We've put a nice little back strap on it area where guys you can throw in a little lanyard on here for snagging it out of your pocket a little bit better. Now let's talk about functionality on the knife, okay? So super flush to the touch. At the 90-degree point, flush to the touch. At the lock point, absolutely flush to the touch. Kind of obsessed with that. So at your 90-degree, and if you're closed, the knife's mechanically as it should be. Flush, yummy, smooth. We haven't gone with jewelry finishes on this knife yet. So the way we're coming out is with utilitarian carry finishes. Now, having said that, those of you who have seen our stonewash, we did a different stonewash for this knife. So it's hard for you to see this up close, but instead of our big stone tumbler, we went with small ceramics and plastic triangles and a slurry. These are actually really, really smooth and silky feeling. And then the blades, everything's been tumbled kind of the same way. We offer it in a few different colors. I just think it's a lovely knife, and it's got Medford, it's got my zeitgeist to it in that it makes a lovely sound. It makes a lovely sound when you open it. Makes a great sound at the 50 point. Makes a great sound when you close it. And then the thing I don't like about some slip joints that are trying too hard is they will really start right about here to bite you. And I wanted to I set the camming and lobing up on this so that you could get it almost all the way closed, and it doesn't want right about here, it'll jerk out of your hand and closes. So I think everything about it is just kind of perfect. It is so fun to use, and I've been using it more than anything else. Here's what's fun about it. It's got a little dainty edge on it. It's razor sharp, and I use it for 90% of just the little light shit that I do. And then I reach past my big knife to grab my little one all the time. And then I'm carrying a bigger knife in my pocket always. And I pulled that out the other day because I needed to do something that was a little bit bigger and it was going to be a little gnarlier going around. I was cutting a little chamfer on a radius of wood, something I was making, and I need to kind of impromptu fab a little chamfer. And it's cool because a little tiny edge is much quicker to kind of keen up again. So I've turned from being a no knife carry guy to carrying giant knives to carrying a big knife and a little tiny knife. And I think they go together really nicely. Now, nice thing about this knife, I mean, you guys, I always wear XL gloves and they're tight on me, okay? It's still a full-size knife, but I could skin an elk with this knife for sure. Really cool knife. Great 90-degree point. Everything about it feels right. It's sexy. So, for you guys in Europe, the weight, I don't know. It's a couple little pieces. It weighs about that much. I'm not sure about the weight yet, but I will weigh it later and come up with a weight for it. And I know that way I can get you perfect numerical feedback on the weight. Maybe while I'm on the video, I will ask someone to weigh it for me. Wartet einen Moment bitte. So close. Hey, is anybody down here that can help me?
What do you need?
Jack! Has anyone weighed this little slip joint yet?
Yeah, it's on there.
Oh, how much does it weigh?
I want to say 2.4 ounces. But it's in the description.
5.4 ounces? Do we know what it weighs in? He's going to want to know what it weighs in grams. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, fucking convert it.
Yes, you are an engineer in Germany. You can convert it to grams from ounces. 2.4. All right, we're just kidding because Germans are so precise.
Here's 300 pounds of fucking convert it.
All right,
Sorry.
Jeff's 300 pounds and he weighs a little bit more than this Gentleman Slim does. Gentleman Jack. What do we call this thing? Gentleman Jack, right?
Gentleman Jack, GJ1. Where's your thing?
GJ1. What are we looking at?
That sounded weird.
You're moving to my. Oh, look at it. It's right there. Gentleman Jack, GJ1, new, and new.
Your processor speed is like.
You know what this doesn't have?
2.9.
It weighs 2.9 ounces. 2.9 ounces. It doesn't have a description here.
Well,
I need to
For the
write a
professor,
description.
Those are just place marks. That was
Oh.
our best effort as a
You
general.
guys can buy this knife, and I'm going to now go in and wordsmith me some cool little description of it.
This is yeah.
Oh, there we go. Boom. It's
And
got some stuff.
And if you go down to the bottom, this is the general, and then there we just, quick little specs.
Yeah. Well, it's up if you guys want it. It's a very cool knife. I hope you guys like it. When we've been trying to, I try to have fun and broaden the options and bring cool stuff to the marketplace. That's all I do. There's only a couple people making really cool all titanium frame locks. I know there's some stuff coming out of Europe. But this isn't coming out of Europe. It's coming out of America. Hey, listen, you guys out in Europe, don't be worked up about what's going on in the United States. Since they can't win the election because they've got that guy with dementia running against my favorite orangutan, Orange Badman, since 82 Gramm, danke. So, this is what they're going to do. They're just going to caterwaller. The left, the liberals in our country, who are a bunch of cunts, they have basically decided, since they can't win the election, and they've been told no by mommy and daddy, that they're going to have a temper tantrum. So that's what's going on. In the United States right now, we have a temper tantrum going. And we'll see what happens. I feel sorry for anybody who owns property in the 6 or so blocks of the new country, I don't know what's it called, Spaz in Seattle. And you know what? I played guitar up in Seattle for a year, and I couldn't stand the fucking place. Any more Black Lives? Black Lives Matter. I was wearing my Black Lives Matter shirt today, as a matter of fact. I probably take race a little too lightly because I talk to non-white people all the time. Off-white. I don't even know what to say anymore. I talk to humans all the time of diverse backgrounds, and I have some pretty in-depth conversations, and I find that I just don't find that racial divide that maybe because I live in a Republican state where everybody can hustle and get ahead. I don't find that racial divide that you hear so much about in Los Angeles and Seattle. I think those people are held back by Democrats. Those people, I just said it. I think blacks are held back by the Democrats. I think Malcolm X said the modern white liberal was a slave master, and you were nothing more. I believe he said house Negro. No, actually, I think he said it worse than that. But I believe I remember from college he said you were nothing more than a house Negro if you wouldn't get off the plantation of the modern liberal, modern white liberal in America. You were a house Negro. And that's, quoting a little Malcolm X for you. I read that when I was in college, just kind of, I was a philosophy major, chemistry and philosophy. That was my background. And spent a lot of time thinking about the nature of things and the reality of things and writing about them and the pros and cons of everything. And Malcolm X has got some very pointed, he said some other stuff that was kind of crazy, but he's got some very pointed stuff that there's a lot of people out there who haven't read Malcolm X. They ought to read it, especially if you're not white like me. Somebody just wanted to see the Praetorian Flipper again. So this is the Praetorian Slim Flipper. The people of color that I know, I love them. So I don't know what's going on out there. I don't get it. So that's the knife. It's got an off-angle breaker. It's on bearings. Frankly, it doesn't even need to be a flipper. It spidey flicks so nicely. It's ridiculous. Just a fun little knife. Like, I've been having fun carrying it. This is the Praetorian Swift FL for frame lock. Frame lock, Praetorian Swift. Again, on bearings, sick little knife. Sick, 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 sick. And then the Gentleman Jack. Super cool. All right, guys, that's Friday here at Medford Knife and Tool. I hope you guys have a great weekend. When you meet with your friends and your family, here's my message for the day. It's my message of life. Don't compromise. Don't fucking compromise. Don't compromise your morals. Don't compromise your ethics. Don't compromise your family. Don't compromise your view of the world. Don't let mamby-pamby cunts tell you you're only a good person if you compromise with those who disagree with you. Sometimes the people who disagree with you are fucking wrong. Don't compromise. You know what you compromise on? Stuff that doesn't matter. The wife says that she wants to buy a pair of $800 boots. You might compromise and suggest a really lovely $260 pair of boots. That's a compromise. No compromise. Communists are wrong. Socialists are wrong. People who live in fear don't deserve an opinion. That's it. No fucking compromise. We didn't compromise going to the moon. You know, we didn't compromise winning World War II. No compromise. When your wife says, $700 knife, that's insane, then you go, look, $375. Totally reasonable. That's a compromise worth making. Greg Medford from Medford Knife and MKT USA. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Monkey Balls, Chitty Chat, all of those places. Have a great weekend. I'm out.